For national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And good evening. Welcome to the broadcast on this May 19th, 2025. Joining me tonight is going to be Annie Cyrus. There's a very disturbing news report tonight of an individual that's been added to one of the lay leadership teams, one of the committees at the White House. A man that reportedly spent an Islamist time in jail. We'll bring that in prison. We'll bring that to you tonight. And then we're coming back with a second report by Dave Gobbets, the former federal agent and military man, retired, who we asked and we paid for his airfare and travel and expenses to go down to Texas to do a report for us on what's going on at the EPIC, the Islamic compound. Tonight, he brings us brand new, yet not unseen pictures. I've been showing them. And he brings us an affidavit, which is now on our website at worldviewtimes.com. This is a printed out copy. It's double-sided. So it's a rather lengthy affidavit, and it's notarized, so we can go into court with it. It's available for you to read at worldviewtimes.com. He's going to join us, along with the panel. We'll add in and have with us Annie Cyrus for that, too, and Shahram Hadian. We're going to talk about what's happening in our country, and again, it seems as though, I hate to say it, the Trump administration doesn't fully understand this threat, or maybe they do, and it's just politics, pragmatism. I don't know. We're going to get into it tonight because we want President Trump to be successful. But one of the greatest threats facing our country is Islam. It's ourselves first, our own government, and then Islam. It's the deep state, the federal government, the bureaucracy, and Islam, and Marxist. The red-green axis. The red-green axis. The red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist, and then our federal government. This is a big deal. And the Islamists are bragging. I'm going to play for you tonight video clips where they're telling us they're going to take over. That it's the long game. And by having enough children, the Muslims, Islamists, they're going to take over. They're going to get elected to office, and they're going to implement Sharia, Islamic law. They're going to get rid of alcohol. They're going to do all kinds of stuff. But eventually, it's going to be Islamic law. And they're openly bragging about it in America. You got to see this. You got to see these clips. I'm sure the panel will be fire, as the young kids say today. Logan's laughing at that. Because we're going to do some long segments tonight, I'm going to ask you to indulge me because we got to have the funding to pay for all this, because we're going to go a long time tonight without any commercial break. Now, I just took a Bella Grace. Before coming on the air here, I just took a Bella Grace. I would show you it, but I've already taken it. Okay? So you're just going to have to take my word for it. I've already had my Bella Grace today. And I want you to go there. Or if I could find it, Logan. There it is. Go to melissahousebg.com. melissahousebg.com. Got an email the other day from a guy named Bill. Said his wife had been on the Bella Grace for about a week, and her leg pain that she struggled with for 10 years that doctors couldn't figure out has now gone away. We have the email to prove it. We get so many emails like that because it's real. There are 80 clinical trials behind this. 80 clinical trials behind this. Okay? By the way, apparently a lot of you are doing this, joining our team. You've clicked on this and you're joining our team to become an influencer. And some of you are making a few $100s a month. Some of you are making several $100s a month. So there you go. I think this company was just featured, I was told this morning, in Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair apparently is just in a big write-up about Bella Grace. They're growing. It's a very easy product to represent to family and friends because there are 80 clinical trials behind it and it works. So why don't you consider going to melissahousebg.com, get a subscription. For some of you, though, join Brand Melissa's team, become an ambassador. You'll be helping us. You'll be helping yourself. You make some extra money. And the people that take it can get the great results we're all getting. Again, get a subscription to the Elixir so you don't miss out every month. Of course, not just the Elixir. Melissa loves the skincare, the Bella Grace skincare. There's the Bella Trim. This is the Bella Trim. Takes away your appetite, really curbs your appetite. But the reports show it's very good for your cardiac health as well. Okay? Then there's the Restorative Sleep, the gummies to help you get to sleep and stay asleep. It's all there. melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. There's also, of course, the Numi. Numi is filled with gatatana. That's with glutathione. Numi is filled with glutathione. That's an all-natural occurring molecule in your body to help detox your cells. Swish with this. Take 2 capfuls and swish about 3 minutes. Swish it around your mouth. It's in your bloodstream within 90 seconds. Glutathione, a natural occurring molecule in your body that starts to decrease around the age of 20. Studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And you know there are toxins everywhere. So I do Numi every day. I do my Bella Grace every day. I do my gatatana every day. The power of the 3. Here's the gatatana. melissahousegpa.com is gatatana. 1 scoop, equivalent of 90 billion plant cells, 5 clinical trials behind this. I give a half a scoop every morning to Dolly on her food. I take a full scoop in water. Just a little glass. You see me drink it here. 1.5 cups. Take 2 cups, 1.5 cups of water. Mix it, drink it. Cold water, not hot. You all know about the man that developed it. Tom Harper was growing it for his shellfish. They gave him a terminal diagnosis. Started eating the paste that he was growing for the shellfish. Went in for 11 biopsies. They all came back benign. Terminal cancer. Told him, you're going to die. Came back benign. He said, look, coincidence? I don't know, but this is what I was taking. He went on to live another 10 years, retired to Hawaii. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you the story. But I know that if you want to get nutrition to the cells and boost your immune system, so your immune system can fight off all the attacks, then you have to have a good immune system. Feed your cells at the cellular level. Feed your immune system. My Bella Grace, my Numi with the glutathione, and my gatatana. Okay? Then finally, before we go to Annie Cyrus, I don't leave home without it. When I travel, I went to DC for 8 days. I brought it with me. What am I talking about? Talking about my satellite phone. It went with us. Because should the cell phone towers go down, power go out, I want to be able to communicate. The great thing about this, folks, the satellite phone is free. Free. When you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. In addition, the minutes roll over from month to month. I have so many minutes that have stored up. So should I go into an area where the cell coverage is poor, I could talk for a very long time because I have so many minutes stored up. Because Tina is very generous and she lets those minutes roll over and stack up for you. So go to Worldview Talk, get your satellite phone. I don't know where you're traveling to this summer, but you may end up in an area where the cell phone coverage is terrible. Well, not with satellite phone, you have to worry. You go outside, turn it on, acquire satellite, dial your number. But also you want to have an emergency phone. Should the power grid go down, cell towers go down, you can still communicate. Okay? And again, some of you may want to get the Bivy. This allows you to use your cell phone to text. So you just compose the text on your cell phone, but you sync it to this Bivy to your cell phone. So you compose the text on your cell phone, hit send, goes through the Bivy to a satellite, down to your family member that has a Bivy, and then they read the text on their phone. So instead of using the cell tower, you're using a satellite. And this is your satellite sender and receiver. Very, very reasonably priced. You can buy one, or you go down here, you can find a pack of 3. These are one of the biggest sellers right here, Bivies. WorldviewTalk.com, WorldviewTalk.com. Now, if you want to get one of their generators, they have those. They have the bulletproof backpacks. They have generators. I highly suggest you use the 866 number there. Ask questions about the generator so that you get what you need. What is it you want to run? They'll help you figure out the one you need so you don't get one that is too small, but you don't also want to go too big. So tell them what it is you're trying to power, your whole house, or no, just some lamps and a refrigerator, coffee pot, and they'll help you out. I have the Delta Echo 400 solar generator, okay? I have it in a closet. If I need it, I'll get it out. So are you ready for whatever could be thrown at us? I hope you are. I'm just telling you, these are great products. I use them. I have them. They're great sponsors of the show when you purchase from them. They don't just send us money, folks. You got to do business with them. So please consider doing business with these companies, okay? These companies at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. But if you want to get a solar generator, I would call that 866-738-3224 number and ask questions and get the right one, okay? I wanted to go to this, folks, because we're not going to be stopping for a lot of commercial breaks tonight. So I'm just going to trust you to tell your family and friends about these great companies at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Get great products and help us out to keep the show and the network going. Thank you. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus of liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.com. She also has a Substack, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Brand new article out tonight. Here it is. Meet the terror camp trainee on Trump's faith board. Not a rumor, not satire. This is real. Annie, this is really got a lot of the MAGA world really quite upset tonight. Can you talk to us about it, please?
Of course. But I'm going to say I'm expecting way more people to be upset, just as a side note. So on Friday, White House put out a press release announcing 2 new added members to the faith board of President Trump's administration.
Wait a minute. To the faith board?
Yes. Yes.
To the faith advisory
board. To be
board.
advisors, yes. The faith advisory board of White House.
So we're going to try to maintain Christian freedom while we put people on the board who want to shut down Christianity.
Who want to kill Christians, to be precise.
Okay, there's seriously, can President Trump, can he bring you, me, Usama, Hadia, Usama? I mean, we need to be his people on Islam. Can he not come to us? Can we
could, but he chooses not to. Yes, we could. Well, not just him. We could help him, his legacy, his administration, and this country. But so far, he has chosen to pick Muslim advisors in every corner of his administration.
I would think that Sebastian Gorka would be coming unglued right now, right?
I thought he would too. I mean, I thought many other would, but haven't yet.
Well, tell us about this character.
Sure. Okay, so as mentioned on my Substack, I think it was very ironic when I discovered that part, but Ismail, you'll see the name as Ismail Royer. Ismail Royer is not a child of Middle Eastern immigrants. He didn't immigrate himself here as a baby. He was born and raised right here in America, I think St. Louis, Missouri, to a very typical white Catholic family. I think the father was a lawyer, mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then he was born Eric Christopher Royer, and in 1992 he converted to Islam. Changed his name to Ismail Royer, and this was asked of me. Yes, Ismail is the Arabic version of Ishmael in Hebrew. It's the same name. And pretty much by early 2000, he decided that he wants to be a devout Muslim. He wants to be a real Muslim. So he has started going to mosques, listening to preachers, or imams, proper word, and then headed to Pakistan. Went to Pakistan for training, not in the language of Pakistani. He went there to become a full-on jihadi. He had the full conversion, and then he had the full training. Weapons, how to make a bomb, and how to recruit. I came back to U.S., just started recruiting Americans to join the jihadi networks, specifically Pakistani jihadi networks. Did the trainings, weapon and making bomb trainings, and then he was arrested here in America, convicted here in America, sentenced to 20 years in prison, and he served 13 years of that 20 years, and he was released based on good behavior apparently and cooperation with DOJ. And now he has a seat at the Trump administration's faith board in White House. The short version.
Well, Logan, pull that down there and let me play for you this is what Steve Emerson had to say about him on Fox News years ago. Steve's been on the broadcast a few times. Listen to what he had to say about this gentleman. Let me refresh the page. It's not going to work, I guess. And by the way, I guess I shouldn't call him gentleman. I guess you should say Islamist.
Jihadi.
Mm-hmm. So here we go.
Let me reveal something for the first time. Ismail Royer, a full-time care official, within days of 9/11, organized a group of individuals while he was on CARE's payroll to go fight against Americans in Afghanistan. And he was convicted of that. And that's something that cannot be disproven because it was revealed in grand jury testimony.
All right, I want to play that again. Okay, listen again. Here we go.
Let me reveal something for the first time. Ismail Royer, a full-time care official, within days of 9/11, organized a group of individuals while he was on CARE's payroll to go fight against Americans in Afghanistan. And he was convicted of that. And that's something that cannot be disproven because it was revealed in grand jury testimony.
Wow. So this character has been known for, I'm so disappointed in this. And I want President Trump to be successful. And I don't think President Trump is an expert on Christianity. I don't think he's an expert on Judaism. I don't think he's an expert on Bible prophecy. I don't think he's an expert on Islam. I think Donald Trump is a businessman, now president, for the second time. I think, like most politicians, he's pragmatic. I don't think he would deny that, right? I think he's taken some bold, courageous stands, no doubt about it. I think his life is still at risk with the deep state, i.e. James Comey's deal the other day. And I've said from the beginning that we're going to agree with him in some areas and disagree with him in some areas. But I guess to try to be charitable, what I really think, and maybe I'm wrong, Annie, what I really think is you have a guy that is missing major pieces of the puzzle. He is sadly, I think, surrounded by people giving him very, very bad advice. And I would be shocked if he has anyone telling him the truth. Do you think he even knows who this guy is? That he's been 20 years, that he was helping to fight our own soldiers in Afghanistan? I have a hard time believing anyone has told President Trump this.
I would say he does know.
You do.
I do. And the reason I say he does know is first time around, President Trump was briefed on Islam, Sharia, terrorism, jihad, all of that.
By Rich Higgins, right?
Not just Rich Higgins. He also, at that term, for a while, he did have General Michael Flynn on his team. One of the people that really, as an ex-Muslim who I have all the expertise that's needed, I think General Flynn is one of the very rare people in America who truly knows what these people are about. President Trump did the Muslim ban, remember? He walked around the whole 4 years talking about jihadists and Taliban and ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It's hard for me to sit here and say, I don't think he knows who this person is. Just like I'm not going to say, I don't think who he posed picture with while in Middle East, being the leader of Syria.
Well, he knows. He does know who that guy is.
That's my point. Right now, even if for sake of argument, I don't think he's just getting bad advice. He is getting bad advice, but I don't think it's just that. But even if I just agree with that, then I'm going to move on to questioning his leadership for just taking bad advice over and over and not paying attention to what the result is. He watched Hussein Obama. He criticized Obama over his deal with Iran, over his deal with Taliban, over his deal with Muslim Brotherhood. You cannot criticize somebody and then go do the same thing and pretend like this is just for making good deals. I mean, I don't accept that. You know, I have been a supporter of President Trump. I give him credit when he does right. But last week, just looking at my Substack, I'm out of excuses for him. Not that I was trying to give him any excuse. But at this point, genuinely, I can't give him any more excuse or reason for what he's doing. From the Middle East trip, the stepping to be the first American president to actually step into the biggest interfaith building in Abu Dhabi and signing the guest book there. These are questionable moves, Brennan. This isn't bad advice. This is Trump trying to make that deal. And inside America, he's trying to return the favor of the 7 imams who endorsed him and delivered Michigan for him on November. I think that's where he's coming from.
So you think two things: political payback for delivering Michigan, the Muslims that endorsed him, the imams, and two, he wants this Abraham Accord so badly, he's trying to do things at the home base here to appeal to those Islamic countries.
Exactly. And let's not mention, he definitely doesn't want to go down in history as the president that faced the biggest Islamic terror in the country. So he's trying to keep him happy. He did say in his first...
Let's stop right there. Say that again, and what do you mean by that?
What I mean is, that's why I said I don't think he doesn't know what these people stand for.
You think he's trying to appease them to get them to make sure they don't call for the largest terrorist attack on American soil in American history?
Exactly. There is no other reason.
Which would tell me he has been briefed about major terror cells in the U.S., which, Logan, can you find the clip of Kash Patel talking about moving the FBI building because it's not safe? Let me connect the dots there. When Kash Patel said, we've got to get the headquarters of the FBI, which we were just standing in front of and to the side of, because when we were doing that we were covering that press conference and doing my radio show live from DC, we were in front of the Department of Justice, and then to my left was the FBI headquarters. Then the next day or a couple days later, we went to Ford's Theater and the Peterson House, where Lincoln was taken across the street to the boarding house where he died, and we filmed all that. We were then at that point we were by 2 doors down from the FBI headquarters. So we know right where we're at, right? And I have to tell you, while we were there 2 doors down from the FBI headquarters at Ford's Theater, you look up the 7th floor, and I was thinking to myself, this seems like a very strategic building to be right here among all these people that are coming and going that aren't scanned. Or to me, I kind of thought it's kind of a weird place to have this building with all the security problems. You think about the White House being way set off the road, lots of barriers, lots of borders, cars, are not going anywhere near it like they were when I was a kid and lived there. And I'm looking up at the FBI building while we're staying outside the Peterson house, thinking to myself, this is kind of weird that this building's still here, right? And then the next week, Kash Patel says this. Listen.
Man, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing in the next 3, 6, 9 months. We're going to do that hard. And, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big
go right
nugget.
back there again.
But we want the American
go back to
men
racism.
9 months. We're going to do that hard. And, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget.
We want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that, and that's not this place.
All right, when I heard that last week, I don't know what you thought, but I thought these guys have been read in. They have been read in onto, in my opinion, massive existential threats to the country, to the FBI building, to any of these sensitive government buildings. They've been read in. Why else would the FBI director say, we are going to exit the Hoover building? It is not safe. There's no other reason other than it is terror cells, terror threats. They have been read in. And now that adds that to the conversation. You're saying, then President Trump's obviously been read in. He's thinking, maybe I can get the leaders of Islam to call their dogs to heel. Now, I'll tell you, from a strategic standpoint, it will work in part, because Dave Gobbets has said, and I love your cat comes over and paws you and does that now a couple shows. It's pretty cute. Dave Gobbets said on my show last week, when he's gone in undercover to now over 425 mosques, and now one for us, and we have the sworn affidavit here on it, he asked the imam, why have there not been any more terrorist attacks on American soil like 9/11? And the answer has been, we're making progress. We're making progress. That would set us back 20, 25 years. Now, if President Trump is putting key people in positions to make progress, that then can be used to tell those leaders, you're being mainstreamed. Call your dogs to heel. Which makes me again wonder, is this president, is this FBI director that afraid of a major terrorist attack?
I was asked that very question, why we haven't faced another major attack like September 11. And I actually pretty much the same answer, but I said, why would they do something like that when now they are part of the society? They have been normalized. They have their narrative moving forward. Is Trump or Kash Patel that afraid? I don't honestly know.
What
I
does
don't
your
know if
gut?
they are.
What does your gut tell you?
I don't think this is fear. Reason, again, recent speech by President Trump in Saudi Arabia. We are back to having the strongest military there is. If we got the best military and we got the best equipment, what are we afraid of?
Well, they're afraid of terrorist attacks. I mean,
I know, but enabling the terrorists to pass it on to the next president so you can walk and say, you see, there were no jihadi attack under my watch. I don't know. I thought Trump is better than that. Well, maybe I was wrong. He's literally giving this country away to the enemy so he can have no issues or any major attacks to deal with.
or maybe he really believes in his abilities to negotiate and offer deals to control them. Maybe he feels like this is his way to control them. I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt every turn I can.
Well, here's the thing. Even Kash Patel, until this very video that you played Sunday interview, I always said he's one of the two people I trust in Trump's administration. But I caught one sentence in his interview. I was like, well, we're done. Because from 2019 until this Sunday, conservatives, Republicans, some of the Democrats, and MAGA made a fool. Actually, this is my next Substack that's going to be released. Made a fool meme war out of Epstein didn't kill himself. And you have Kash Patel sitting there Sunday saying, I saw the file. When you see a suicide, you know it's a suicide. He killed himself. Now we have a state-approved narrative that suddenly Epstein actually killed himself?
And yet I think Chris Martenson, if I can find it on Twitter, Chris Martenson saying that he's done autopsies and he's explaining why he's not buying that.
Well, here's the thing, Brandon. How do we go? These two people on camera, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Don Jr., Jack Posobiec, Steve Bannon, for 6 years, loudly on top of their lungs, they screamed Epstein didn't kill himself. He was suicided. It was Clinton's. It was the corrupt FBI. It was the swamp. It was the deepest. After 6 years, like that, and Kash Patel is claiming to seen everything in the files, the very files that supposedly were shredded by previous FBI. That's why they couldn't release them. Give me a break.
Here's what Chris Martenson said. My PhD is in pathology, toxicology. I performed autopsies. I know enough about anatomy to know that a slump hanging is not going to fracture the hyoid bone in 3 pieces. Epstein did not kill himself. He was strangled by a strong man. This indicates we have a huge problem. Yeah. All right, Annie, we're gonna go to a panel. You're gonna be a part of it. Any other closing comment on your article over at liveuptofreedom.substack.com?
Yes, I'm with you. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'll encourage everybody, and I keep these very short. Read these Substacks. Read them, take notes, and then pay very close attention to the actions of him, now the FBI, DOJ, pay close attention. As much as I would love to give him the benefit of the doubt, knowing what I know, coming where I come from, this isn't about what we think it is. If we don't push back because we love Trump that much and Trump is the master of all deals and all those excuses, we're going to very quickly regret not pushing back against some of his major decisions inside America and in the Middle East. This is going to be ugly.
Now, I want to ask you, though, what do you think Kash Patel means when he says this building is not safe to be the FBI headquarters?
I honestly, I think he's hinting at possibly the deepest state. There are people. I don't think he's worried today about a jihad attack for the fact that the plan is to keep him happy every day somebody's being assigned a new position in administration one way or another from an Islamic community.
So how is
I
the
do
bill?
think he's worried about deep state.
How so?
Trump has been very focused on a lot of, again, I give credit when it's due. He has focused on getting some of these members involved with deep state or shadow government, whatever we want to call them. He's been very focused pushing FBI and Cash Patrol to continue the investigations. So if he has found something that he's about to put out, he's going to be automatically concerned that they might come after him and his entire building.
False
That's
flag.
one side that Trump is-
like a false flag.
A false flag, or maybe possibly he has names he's about to release. I know I did see a report that by end of June, they're going to make about 120 arrests. If he's really have the evidence to go pick up 120 of these people who are part of deep state, I would understand his concern with the building. Because it's going to be the biggest arrest ever made of corrupt members of government.
But even if it's not that, you and I both know that should concern him, the deep state. But these terror cells should concern him. They're, whether he knows it or not, I don't know what he's been briefed on. I don't know what he's referring to. But he better be afraid, in my opinion, of the deep state, and he better be very worried about these terror cells. Now, these terror cells may have now been less prone to being activated because of the advances they're making. But I still am under the belief that there are very, very dangerous terror cells, Islamic terror cells here in the U.S. You agree?
No question about it. Absolutely, 100%. I can't necessarily say this to Cash Patrol, no offense, Cash, but I'll say this to President Trump or Dan Bongino. I understand being concerned and being afraid, but as Christians, you're not supposed to fear. So either of you, if you're bending and having a strategy to give them more power in order to keep them quiet, I'll say maybe at the end of the night when you're done with all your meetings and handshaking and taking pictures, pick up your Bibles, read them.
All right, liveuptofreedom.com and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. We'll come back. We're going to be joined by Dave Gobbets, part 2. He gave us today a sworn affidavit that we're putting online for you to look at as well. Some new pictures. I'm going to be seeing some of them for the first time as well. We'll be joined by Annie Cyrus, Shram Hadian, and Dave Gobbets right after this. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gadatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. One scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gadatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
All right, welcome back. We're going to go to Dave Gobbets for our part 2. He gave us today an affidavit, a signed and notarized affidavit. We've now put it online at worldviewtimes.com. We have worldviewradio.com, worldviewtimes.com, worldviewtube. So we're radio, we're TV, and we're your printed news. There it is. Dave Gobbets, sworn affidavit on Epic Mosque in Texas. Click on it. It will open up that for you. Now, before we do this, folks, think about it. We paid him an honorarium, his travel, all that to go down there and report back to you. We offer you free radio shows, TV shows, free articles, free iOS app, free Android app, free Roku channel. We have a free Apple TV channel. It should be added any day now. Android TV, Google TV, free content, free platforms. Folks, we need to pay for it all to keep it going. And sending Dave down there to do this investigation, again, there's very little we can't do together, but we have to have your support. I want to thank all of you that do support us, but I know there are some of you that cannot support us. So I'm just going to ask you to pray for us and promote us. But to those of you that can, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can, $100 a month, $50 a month, whatever. We need to see more regular monthly automatic contributions. Please consider setting up an automatic monthly contribution at worldviewfoundation.com. We will send you a tax receipt the first week of February of 2026 with our EIN number and everything. We need more monthly contributors. Please consider an automatic monthly contribution now at worldviewfoundation.com. If you prefer to give through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there, worldviewfoundation.com. If you prefer to make a contribution over the phone, you'll find our number there. You can text Melissa, leave her a voicemail, and she'll get back to you. Folks, look at all we've done in 35 years. 35 years I've been doing this. And sitting Dave down there to do this investigative report, write us up a sworn affidavit on all that he saw and read and heard. And I'm going to show you pictures. I think we're proving we have courage, and we have the courage of our convictions. So does our team. We just need the support to keep doing more things. So please consider going now, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you. Joining me now is Dave Gobbets by phone. Annie Cyrus is back with us, and former Muslim, now Christian pastor, broadcaster with us, Shahram Hadian, born in Iran. Annie, born in Iran. Both of them former Muslims, now joining us in defending our liberties and freedoms and exposing Islam for the cancer that it has become on our country. They join us now, this panel. Thank you guys for joining us again.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Let's start with something here. This is from Memory. This is a organization that really tracks Islam. They do a very good job. This is Texas Islamic scholar Yasser Qadhi at Mercy Mankind Islamic Conference in Warren, Michigan, posted on April 14th, 2025. Listen to this, folks.
After another, these Generation Z and millennials and these under the age of 35, within a decade, they're going to be the CEOs. They're going to be the congressmen. Within 20 years, they're going to be in the Senate and in the White House. So victory is long term. Stop thinking about today. Victory is going to come. We might not see it, but we have to be a part of the process. They've lost their own children and grandchildren to the cause upon the truth. Understand, when we all come together and we influence the people around us and we create a tidal wave of change, which has already begun. I was so astonished. Every campus I'm going to, the Muslims are probably 10-15% of the protesters. 80 to 90% are non-Muslims. This country has lost the next generation on this cause. We thank Allah for that. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. They cannot shut our voices down. Collectively, we are more powerful than any entity and government on the face of this earth.
Wow. Absolutely stunning. He's saying we've lost our children. You've lost your children. You've lost your grandchildren. 10-15% of the protesters are Muslims. The other are Americans who now see it's their cause to defend Islam, spread Islam. We're going for the long game. Your governors, your senators, your congressmen, we're going to win this thing. Is that what you heard down there, David, when you went undercover?
Well, that's exactly what I heard, and I want to go even a little bit further on that point. When I was in Iraq in 2003, right at the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom, I had the opportunity to interview numerous Al-Qaeda and Saddam Fedayeen. And one of the things I was told over and over and over again was, I would ask, what is going to be the next type of attacks in America? And remember, this is 2003. And over again, I was told that the next type of attacks in America is that they are going to go after the hearts of the American people. Now, this is by Al-Qaeda and Saddam Fedayeen at the time. And I said, what does that mean? And they said, what it means is we're going to go after the hearts of the American people, which are the children of the American people. And they, as Qadhi said, they are doing exactly that. They are going after the hearts, our children, turning our children against us. And we're seeing it on college campuses all across America.
Shahram?
Well, Brandon, I'm not surprised by this because we've known for a while that, number one, the top place of recruitment and dawah, evangelism to Islam, is on the college campuses. After all, the Muslim student associations have been operating since the late 1950s on American soil. That was the very first place they targeted, was the hearts and minds of our children. And when you have this red-green axis, so when you have all the Marxists, socialists, little wannabes on the college campuses. You and I talked about this, that in 2000, the same young wannabes, particularly the white, disenfranchised, so-called disenfranchised, Gen Z and Gen Alpha or whatever the next letter is, they were the ones who were burning the streets. They were the ones who were fighting for Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They have simply now been converted over, put a keffiyeh on their neck and say free Palestine and fight for Hamas. So Yasser Qadhi is telling the truth. Why are we surprised that he's telling the truth? When they get to that upper house, they're going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you, this is our long-term strategy. This is what we're doing. And Americans sit there and go, no, it just can't be. It just can't be. And this is exactly what they've been doing. They are converting young men and women, particularly women, on college campuses to Islam. So that's exactly what they've been doing. And they're recruiting them into their armies to do their bidding, using what is the slogan of the Muslim Brotherhood? We're going to sabotage your miserable house using your hands, their hands, and the hands of the believers. So they use our hands to destroy our own nation first.
Annie?
I want to say this to Yasser Qadhi first. Praise and credit doesn't go to Allah at all. Everything you said is correct. They are doing what they're doing, but the blame goes to us. Maybe, just maybe, if parents would take the time on a Sunday dinner to talk about Bible to their kids, maybe they would understand better. Maybe when they took God out of our schools, stopped teaching Christianity, but allowed Islam to continue being taught at the schools, if parents would push back, maybe we'd see better results. This isn't just Muslims being, well, they're not as smart, but being patient and doing it right. It's also American Christian parents failing their duty, throwing a phone at their kids and go on with their life. So while we're at it, I would like to say we need to hold ourselves accountable while we notice that Muslims are taking advantage of our failure to win over our country.
I agree. Before we get into this affidavit, which is on our website, which you all should read. Before we get into that, one more clip. Here's another clip by Yasser Qadhi. Listen to this.
It is an obligation when you're able to implement Islam as Allah has revealed it.
Want to apply Allah's Sharia? Of course you want to apply Allah's Sharia. Yeah. The answer to that is yes. Mm-hmm. There's no ambiguity there. Yeah. How is that going to happen? And where are we right now? And what is the ideal you're aiming for? And how to get from point A to point B?
Yeah. To be two mainstream positions. One is we need to work to fully implement that system.
For us Muslims living in Western democracies, in the liberal secular democracies we find ourselves, we hope the world embraces Islam. We hope our lands embrace Islam and implement the Sharia of Allah. Yes, and I'll publicly say this. Jihad is a legitimate term. It's a noble term. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. Our Prophet ﷺ said, fight the pagans, fight the kuffar with your tongue, with your pens, and with your hands. There's times and places for different types of jihad. We know that if we were to do this from 0 to 100, the people are going to say, we're not going to have this type. Look Afghanistan, look other places. And people understand they're not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. Suppose a Muslim party, an Islamic party comes in and they start changing. You know what? We want to make sure there's no alcohol being sold. So can we, for the time being, because here's the point, any type of stuff we do, it's not astaghfirullah to substitute the Sharia. No, it's a program to eventually apply the Sharia.
Wow. Various kinds of jihad are necessary, he says. We're going to do this over time. We're going to slowly bring Islamic law, no alcohol. David, I mean, I hate to pat ourselves on the back, but we're one of the few outlets doing this. And as in regards to the, quote, pastors of America, Sharam and I dealt with this on radio today. I would say there are probably, and I'm being super, super generous, I would say there are less than 10,000 real pastors in America. Less than 10,000 real pastors in America. Most of them don't know the Bible. They don't know real biblical doctrine, theology, biblical worldview. Most of them have been trained by seminary graduates who told us point blank. They spent most of their time learning marketing and administration. So I hate to tell you this, David, and I don't know how you feel about it, but we're one of the few shows that has an audience that will do this with an audience that wants to know about it. This is like rolling a boulder up a hill. The odds are not in our favor, David.
No, the odds are not in our favor, and you hit on a very good point. When you say 10,000, I would probably estimate there are even less than that actually support Christians over Muslims.
Whoa, you broke up when you said, say that one more time?
I would estimate there are more Christian leaders that support Islam over Christianity. I've seen this over and
okay, we're
over
getting a head-shaking yes. You're getting a head-shaking of yes by Sharam and Annie. David Gobbets.
Yes, I am seeing this. When I give presentations at churches, I always ask, who are the first-line defenders in America? Now, many people will say it's our military, it's our law enforcement. I informed the Christian leaders, Christian and Jewish leaders in America are the first-line defenders. We are either going to win or lose this country based on what they do. It's in their hands. They are our first-line defenders, and right now the majority are felon Americans.
In 2018, David, I was so discouraged and demoralized by the state of modern-day Christianity in America that I was pursuing avenues to get out of Christian broadcasting and leave. I actually sat down. I sat down in my. I sat down in my. Sat down at my dinner table with a former CIA analyst and a former CIA operations officer. One an atheist. One a former atheist turned more of a agnostic. And when I shared with them over lunch that I was looking to leave broadcasting, Christian worldview broadcasting, and would probably pursue a career in secular broadcasting because the church in America was so asleep and infiltrated, or even maybe just leave it all together and just go into a secular business because I was so demoralized at the corruption of the evangelical church, the corruption, I believe, of well-known major so-called Christian leaders. One an atheist, former CIA operations officer, one a CIA analyst, former, not even self-described Christians. You know what they said to me, David? They both, to my surprise, snapped back and said, don't. I said, why? Why shouldn't I? Why should I not? They said exactly what you just said. Because if the Christian line falls, the country's over. They both said the Christians are the last line of defense. They fall and the country's over. You've got to stay and build up the Christian line of defense. And that's one reason why I'm still here. So you didn't know that story, and I didn't know what you were going to say. I'm validating from one a CIA operations officer former, one a CIA operations analyst former, saying the same thing, David. But I have to tell you, I'm getting discouraged again. Your response?
My response is, well, first, before I say any more on that subject, I want to say it's an honor to be here with the guests that you have today. I didn't know they were going to be on, and truly it is an honor. We need more of this and more speakers like the guests that you have today. And Brandon, you need to stay in the game, because if you drop out, we're losing a large percentage of supporters of Christianity, because there are very, very few, and I think my guests that are on here today will agree with this. There are very, very few Christian leaders who will step up and confront Islam. They're just not out there. I've been all across America, and again, there are more Christian leaders who will support and stand up for Islam before they will you or I or other guests.
Well, didn't we see that in 2017, Shahram? Not to beat a dead horse, but isn't that what we saw in 2017 when we tried to expose this very man, Yasser Qadi, who said, I mean, I got to play again what he said. Guys, listen again. This is the guy we tried exposing. I've been exposing since 2010. And aggressively since 2017. Listen to again what he's saying.
It is an obligation when you're able to implement Islam as Allah has revealed it.
Want to apply Allah's Sharia? Of course you want to apply Allah's Sharia.
Yeah.
The answer to that is yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's no ambiguity there. Yeah. How is that going to happen? And where are we right now? And what is the ideal you're aiming for? And how to get from point A to point B?
Yeah. To be two mainstream positions. One is we need to work to fully implement that system.
For us Muslims living in Western democracies, in the liberal secular democracies we find ourselves, we hope the world embraces Islam. We hope our lands embrace Islam and implement the Sharia of Allah. Yes, and I'll publicly say this. Jihad is a legitimate term. It's a noble term. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. Our Prophet ﷺ said, fight the pagans, fight the kuffar with your tongue, with your pens, and with your hands. There's times and places for different types of jihad. We know that if we were to do this from 0 to 100, the people are going to say, We're not going to have this type. Look Afghanistan, look other places. And people understand they're not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. Suppose a Muslim party, an Islamic party, comes in and they start changing. You know what? We want to make sure there's no alcohol being sold. So can we, for the time being, because here's the point, any type of stuff we do, it's not astaghfirullah to substitute the Sharia. No, it's a program to eventually apply the Sharia.
To apply the Sharia. And when we tried warning about this character, not to beat a dead horse, aggressively starting in 2017, our biggest pushback were from, quote, Christians. So the shocking report here tonight might be to people, as Annie said, as David has said, he shouldn't be thanking Allah. He should be thanking the American people for being yellow belly cowards, most of them, yellow belly cowards, ignorant, stupid, lacking discernment, lacking education. Let me tell you something. My wife and I walked around Target for a few minutes Saturday night. This country is filled with people that show up at Target with their body parts hanging out, 250-pound women who should be wearing the biggest smock they could get their hands on, but no, they show up to Target with the shortest shorts, the lowest cut shirts, and I just had dinner and wanted to vomit. These people are stupid, degenerate. They actually look in the mirror and think they look good. And the men, they're weak. They're feminine. Every time I go to Target, I think, my wife said to me this weekend, I know what you're going through your head. I know what's going through your head. Hold your tongue. I live in a nice area. The majority of Americans are white trash. I'm sorry. Stupid trash by choice. They choose to be stupid. And I'm trying to wake stupid people up because they're going to come after you. But when I look at what walks through Target in an upscale community, I'm thinking, there's no hope for this country. There's too many of these people. You put them all in the parking lot, and the trash outnumbers respectable people. It didn't used to be that way. This was not the standard in America. People had decorum. They had class. They may not have been the most moral people, but they didn't dress like prostitutes and trash and behave like it. We had a standard. And I look around and I'm thinking, no wonder the country's going down the toilet. What have we created from our culture, our TV, our schools, the media, social media? Every time I go out, I'm thinking, why do I go out? I mean, I don't want to sound like an elitist or mean, but there is no excuse for the way people behave. And if you are doing that kind of thing in public, in Target, do you really think there's any wherewithal up here to listen to a show like this? And I'm sorry, but this is becoming the majority of our country. This trash who choose to be trash by choice. Your response, Annie.
I know you didn't ask for my opinion on your comment earlier, but if, as you were saying that you're getting discouraged again, you can't. I'm sorry to say this, Brandon. You can't get discouraged. Aside the fact that I know it's frustrating, I'm there with you. I mean, is anybody even reading? Is anybody even listening? Is anybody paying attention? It gets there. But not only because of your audience, but there are not many, well, as of right now, there's less than a handful of broadcasting channels out there who would have people like me and Sharam Hadian on. Because of us and our messages, you can't give up. You be discouraged. Call me after the show. We talk.
You're able to implement.
Whoop, sorry, that was on my end. Go ahead, keep going.
That's all right. So it's you as exhausting as it sounds. And also, earlier today I read from Bible Hebrews 13:7, And when you said what you said, it hit me again. Remember of your leaders, those who spoke of words of God. That is what you are, Brandon.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm not trying to be rude or unkind or unloving, but you know what? There's a time, Shahram, that American men should say there's something stinking wrong in the culture, to the point, I mean, I can't believe Target lets these people in the doorway dress the way they were. I mean, I was just, again, shocked. I was walking through Target dressed like this, minus the tie. You ought to see how people were looking at me, like I just come from a funeral or something. And I'm telling you, people who literally had their body parts falling out of their tops, 300-pound women. I mean, the purple hair and the colored hair and the transgenders. I mean, Shahram, how are we going to survive when this is what they have created in our culture? And this was by design. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
This was by design so we don't have Dave Gobbets or Annie Cyrus or Shahram Hadians or the members of this audience. They have deliberately created a generation, like Cotty said, they're gone. They've lost them. Yeah. This is what the Marxists have done. And now there's no one to stand. There's very few people to stand up to the Marxists and the Islamists. Do you understand what I'm saying? Again, I hope I'm not sounding hateful, but I am intolerant. I am intolerant of debased, dark-hearted people.
One of the things I have learned from watching most of your Sunday programming is that, yes, we're to be kind and loving, but truth is the priority for us as Christians. You are stating fact and truth. It might sound mean. You cannot. Sometimes truth hurts, and that's what you're doing. It's the truth.
Well, thank you. Because, Shahram, why should you and I and my wife and children, everybody else be accosted and be offended and be treated with disrespect by assuming this is now the standard in the country, right? And then when I watch these people, I thought, not only do we have a problem with their heart and their mind, that they think this is legitimate and normal and acceptable, then you try to take these people and you try to convince them, do you realize what's about to happen to this country? Well, no, we can't even get them to behave in a sane, rational way that is even not only self-respect, but then the respect for others.
There's so much that is there. I completely understand and share the frustration. As Annie said, all of us have to encourage each other. All of us have to, Brandon, I told my wife last year, I am done talking about these issues. That's what I told her last year. I never even told you that.
No, you haven't. You haven't told me that.
I sat down one day and I said, nobody cares. The churches don't care. This nation doesn't care. All of us have been warning about this for years. And, the so-called, prophet crying out in the wilderness, not that, I'm saying I'm a prophet, but the analogy. But early this year, the Lord just brought a level of encouragement. He just brought a level of, I'm about to bring another level of unveiling of what's going on. And here we are. And here we're once again, thanks to your platform, talking about what matters. And if nothing else, we are here to testify. We are here to testify to the truth. And we are here, Brandon, to testify to the condition of the culture. That's what you're describing. What you just described is a Romans 1 debased mind.
Yes.
What you just described spiritually, you described it practically, and it's an affront. It is so grieving what is going on. But spiritually, it's a debased mind. Mm-hmm. Because when we reject the true God, and this is why I warned about a populist movement, because lots of people will vote for a populist movement because I want more money in my paycheck. I want more, more grocery money and what's convenient. But we will not do the hard things. And the danger with the populist movement is oftentimes it's not grounded in any true morality or truth. And here we see, and the Muslims, that, of course, we know it's satanic and demonic and an antichrist spirit. But, ultimately, Satan, through his minions, that is Islam, they're laughing all the way. They're actually celebrating because guess what? In the lower house, they promote our debaseness. They promote our depravity. Go ahead and murder your children. Go ahead and engage in sexual perversion and sexual promiscuity and licentiousness. Go ahead. And the absolute hirelings that you mentioned, the absolute false pastors and teachers that we have that have been promoting that lawlessness, and the ones who fought us, like James White and others, when we tried to warn about the likes of Yasser Qadhi, they're to blame also. This is on their heads. But ultimately, this is a time where, if nothing else, we are testifying to what must be testified in this culture. Because when God, you said earlier on the radio today, right? You said it is both a reprieve. You said there's kind of been a reprieve, but it's also judgment at the same time. And I agree with that 100%. So if judgment's to come, God needs us to testify to the truth. If nothing else, if nobody else will listen, if there's no chance of turning this ship around, and I don't know, it's David and Goliath right now, but it's a debased mind, it's populism, it is without God, without the true God, and Islam laughs all the way, because once they get to the upper house and they don't live by those values, they're going to impose Sharia. My goodness, Brandon, Yasser Qadhi in 14 different ways just admitted what you and I have been warning, and Annie and others have been warning about, and Dave knows as well, we've been warning about for well over 15 years in this nation. And he just admitted it 10 different ways. And yet evangelicals, so-called evangelicals like James White, will still sit there and say, no, you're misrepresenting Islam. You're misrepresenting Yasser Qadhi. You just don't know. Well, guess what, James White? The demise of this nation and the judgment of God is on your head. It's on your head, buddy, because you're the one who, instead of listening to the voice of those who were warning, you attacked us. You try to destroy our credibility to the demise of the nation and ultimately to the demise of the American church. Not the true church, but the American church.
Well said. David, I want to go to some of these pictures you provided. Now, you're by telephone, so I don't know. I'm just going to go in the order you sent them. The first one appears to be you sitting in a car with a bunch of cones, orange cones going down the road. What's that?
Yeah, if I'm thinking of the right one, it's going into the housing division adjacent to the Epicenter Mosque. There's a huge housing subdivision, parallel to the mosque. And, these are expensive homes. They're not $200,000, $300,000 homes, as told to me by the Islamic leaders at the mosque. Those homes are between $1 to $2 million homes, probably 6 to 8 bedroom homes.
So, David, we're up against a 402-acre compound being built with likely multimillionaires involved, just in the housing, not to mention potentially billions behind it, flowing into Tennessee, Texas, and America by Muslim nations.
Yes, and not only that, they are a lot of money, millionaires, even billionaires in that area. A lot of misconception about Islamic leaders is that, they have no education, they're just speaking, from the mouth, not even from the heart. But most of the Islamic leaders, just like Yasser Qadhi, are PhD level. They're very, very smart. They're very intelligent. They study America. They study Christianity. They study Judaism, and they probably know the Constitution better than 95% of the American people do.
So they know how to use our freedoms against us. Here's another one. Just another one going down the street. All right, now here's a picture of your affidavit notarized. Tell me why today, May 19th, 2025, you sent me this affidavit, which is now on our website for everyone to read. Why did you send us the affidavit? Why is it notarized?
Because I want people to know that anything, and especially I want the Islamic leaders to know, and organizations such as CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, to know that anything that I say or do, that I have firsthand evidence. I don't use just my personal opinion. I use a professional opinion, and anything that I say or write, I'm willing to testify in court to exactly that. And I've written numerous affidavits about Mosque all across the country, over 425, and each and every one I would testify in court before my peers.
Let's go to the next picture. This is a bunch of people, or some people, I guess, getting out of cars. There's a bunch of houses in the background. What is that?
Yeah, that's in front of the mosque area. They have two Friday Juma prayers, one at about 1:45 in the evening, and then another at 3:45. And they have approximately between the two about 3,200 worshipers, men and women, that go to the mosque. This is before one of the prayers.
Okay. The next one, they're standing out front, and it looks like they're calling for people to vote for Hamza Fraz, who, City Council Place 3. Who is that, David?
Yeah, they had several candidates for various elected posts that were at the mosque on Friday and Saturday. I went both days to the mosque, and they actually had the polling machines, the voting machines inside the Epic Center for the Muslims to vote. Now, it was interesting during the Friday Juma prayer, they discussed voting and really hit on who to vote for, but then they clarified it with a statement that they are a nonprofit organization and they can't tell you exactly who to vote for, but if they pay attention to the lectures and their Islamic leaders, they will know who to vote for.
Oh, yeah, they know who to vote for. Okay, this is this outside of Yasser Qadhi's office?
Yes, if you're seeing his name, that's as soon as you go into the front entrance of the mosque, right to the left. He's got an office that was paid for allegedly by his parents, who are from Pakistan, and he is a very prominent figure. Brandon, when I go to a mosque, I try to see who is the dominant figure at the mosque. Now, you have 2 or 3 different imams, you have a couple sheikhs, and you have the resident scholars who, like Qadhi. Qadhi, in my professional opinion, is the head leader of the Epic Center in Plano.
And that there's a picture of his actual door. And then it says, this room has been sponsored on behalf of my parents.
Yes.
Dr. Mohammed, whoever that is, and I guess his mother's name, for the sake of Allah. Well, his parents still live in Pakistan?
That I don't know.
Are they rather affluent? I'm guessing they're affluent?
Oh, yes, I would say so. I think they're PhD level scholars.
No, it's just a picture inside the mosque of people walking up and down the hallway. Now, this one is them in the guys sitting down. This is during what? A teaching time, a prayer time? What is this?
Well, that's right before the Friday Juma prayer at 13:45, 1:45 p.m. And I always try to sit at the very back of the line so I can observe everyone in the prayer room. Of course, there's only men and boys in that particular prayer room. And then the women, unlike many mosques, the women are allowed to go through the front door of the mosque, and there's actually offices staffed by Muslim women in those offices. But once the prayer starts, then they have to go upstairs, and they are actually overlooking the men's prayer room.
Okay, because it looks like I got a couple women sitting in chairs with their hijab on.
No, they're not. I thought at first that they were actually women too, but those are actually men.
Huh. Why are they sitting in chairs?
Because if you've got some type of disability, you can use a chair during the prayer.
Okay. Jihad in the Word and Positive Action book cover. Tell me about that. David?
Yes.
The book,
What was the
Jihad of the
question?
Word?
Yes, jihad. There was numerous books on jihad, and something that I respect out of Yasser Qadi is, as the other guest mentioned, he does speak his mind and he does tell the truth and about what the intent of Islam is. Years ago, when I would go to a mosque and I would talk to Islamic leaders, very seldom would they ever say that they want to see the spread of Sharia law through America. They would always deny that. But of course they do want that. Islam wants an Islamic Ummah nation worldwide under Sharia law. That is no big secret, but for some reason, CARE and others will always deny that to politicians, is that they do not want to spread Sharia in America. That is an out-and-out lie. At least Qadi does admit that he wants Sharia throughout the world. Now, he made one of your clips that you had shown, he talked about you don't want to go from 0 to 100 very fast. And one of the questions I ask Islamic leaders when I go to the mosque is, and I mentioned this to you before, is why has there not been another 9/11 such attack in America? And they always say over and over, it's because Dave, they call me Dave, we are winning in America, and by having another 9/11 such attack, it would set them back 25 years. They don't need to go from 0 to 100. They can stay at level 10, 15, or 20 right now, and when they need to, believe me and believe Qadi, they will advocate for physical jihad in America. More 9/11s when they need to.
When they need to. They don't need to right now because they're winning. Let me just pause right there on the picture. Annie and I just dealt with it, David, before you guys came on the panel. And I hate to say it, but one reason they're winning, and one way they're winning, is by the White House putting what is reportedly a former jihadi on an advisory board of lay leaders. Are you aware of Ismail Royer, David Gobbets?
Yes, I've heard of Ismail Royer, and I would have to do a little bit more research before I make another comment on that, but I think he was in the news 10 to 15 years ago. Very, very hardcore Salafis, very close to CARE, very close to CARE, and to Imam Siraj Wahhaj, who I say is the most dangerous Muslim leader in America, out of Brooklyn, New York.
Well, let me play again. This is from Steve Emerson, who's been on the broadcast before. This is Steve Emerson from years ago on Fox News about him. Listen.
Let me reveal something for the first time. Ismail Royer, a full-time CARE official, within days of 9/11, organized a group of individuals while he was on CARE's payroll to go fight against Americans in Afghanistan. And he was convicted of that. And that's something that cannot be disproven because it was revealed in grand jury.
Well, there you go, David.
Yes. Yeah, I said he was very close to CARE, and he was convicted. And there's numerous people that have been associated with CARE. CARE is an Islamic terror organization, the largest sleeper cell organization in America.
Let me go back to the pictures.
Brandon,
yeah, go ahead, Annie.
Sorry, just one thing I wanted to say, Mr. Gobbets, the honor is all mine. I have followed your work and your son's Chris's work for a long time, and I actually, audience can see a copy of your book right here behind me on my bookshelf. But one thing I wanted to say, since there's a lot of talk about CARE and this guy and all of that, I'm just going to do a quick, this is not about me or the plug, Brandon, but I just released another Substack called The Legal Jihad. Because that's one type of jihad most people are uncovering. And they are committed, they're basically using our own legal system against us, and main character of that is CARE. I hope this is somewhat a close or proper assumption, even when Mr. Gobbets put these affidavits up. mentioning main reason I want CARE and others to know, it's because CARE is out there waiting for the smallest misstep so they can start suing Americans, especially those who are vocal against Islamization, against Sharia, and against CARE.
What would be a small misstep?
Of anything. Like, let's say Yasser Qadhi is correct. Yasser Qadhi is telling the truth about global caliphate. That's all it takes for them to come after Sharam, who said it, and now me, who said it. But I'm going to back both of us up by saying just check Quran chapter 24, verse 55. Yasser Qadhi is telling the truth. Inside the Quran, Allah promises all Muslims the entire control of earth and a global setting of Islam, which translates to global caliphate. If you ever say anything about CARE, CARE has sued other organizations and other speakers by just saying CARE is a Islamic front and in America.
David,
the only thing you can say and get away with is the unindicted co-conspirator, because that one is actual fact on the paper.
David Gobbets, what do you think about what Annie just said?
Well, I agree with her 100%. And I'll give some examples that I've came across through my visits across America and the mosque. They, and I'm talking about CARE and other Islamic organizations, they are just waiting to pounce on and to sue, like our teachers, our police officers, people not necessarily who have a high senior level position, but they want to be able to show that they will sue a teacher or they will sue a school so that it will intimidate others to not even support that police officer or teacher. And they've done this all across America. That's why many of our law enforcement agencies are afraid to go after Islamic issues, even such as child marriage, by many of the mosque leadership. They're afraid to go after even child marriages that are happening in their own cities, because they know as it moves up the chain, their superiors will not support them. And this is one of the tactics that CARE uses, as Annie talked about, legal jihad. They intimidate, they can sue, and they've sued me for the last 15 years. But we as Americans, we have got to show them that we are not afraid. You can sue me, you can take my car, you can take my house, but you're not going to take my country or my children.
Now, what do you mean they've been suing you for the last 15 years, David?
When my book came out, Muslim Mafia, in 2009, day one, CARE went to court and sued me wanting to stop the book, so much for the First Amendment. And it's taken over 15 years in court thus far, and millions of dollars, which my publisher, thankfully and prayerfully was able to support me in that. But they will sue any and everybody, but they did regret suing me. They thought initially that it was just myself and my son, and we had no backing, we had no attorneys, we had prominent attorneys behind us. Everything that I did in the operation, 6-month operation with CARE, we had legal advice throughout. CARE didn't expect that, and it started hurting them throughout the case because of our discovery request, and they ended up giving us more information than I was able to even get out of there in 6 months, which we got out over 12 to 13,000 documents.
And where is all that information now?
Well, the information now is sitting with our attorneys.
And when will that be released?
Yeah, it can be released almost any time, as soon as the attorneys say it's the right time to do it.
And how damning will it be?
Well, we only released about 50 documents in Muslim Mafia. We still have thousands more to release.
Wow.
Hey, Sharam?
I just want to encourage us to, and because I know that this is part of, as Annie said, is part of the legal jihad. It is part of the intimidation. But when we stand up to them, so God bless Dave and praise God that he stood up to them and that truth prevails, because everything that we do is sourced and cited. Last week when I was in Minnesota, we are supporting right now a city council member in Lino Lakes that is being sued by CARE simply because he forwarded an email that was factual. The tone of it wasn't very nice, but the information in it about CARE was factual. The mistake that they made was that, he accidentally BCC'd Ibrahim Hooper and Jailani. Ibrahim Hooper is the national head of CARE, not Nihad Awad, and then Jailani Hussein, who's the head of CARE Minnesota. So they're suing him. So what we went, a good friend of mine in Minnesota, spent hours and hours putting together basically like an affidavit like David has put together, but all source factual information to back him up. If we stand against them, and this happened to us in Washington State, there was a small community years ago, a very small community, about 300 or 400 people in Washington State, where CARE went after this teacher because in the curriculum she was teaching about Hitler and about mass murderers, and she mentioned Hamas in that comment that they're also mass murderers. This is long before, obviously, what happened in Israel. This is probably, at least 10 years ago. Actually more than that, probably like 14, 15 years ago. And they came after her. They tried to destroy her. We got that community together, and they stood up, and they kicked CARE out of that town. They stood by that teacher, and CARE had to back down. I want to encourage us. Though we are outnumbered, and they have billions and billions and billions of dollars, and we have, trinkets, we have nothing. But if we stand our ground, if we stand on righteousness and let God fight the battles, if we're in the battle, then I believe we can prevail against their intimidations. This is why we are losing, because capitulation is really slavery. That every single time people capitulate to Islam, to the Muslim Brotherhood, to their legal jihad or their warfare in the media, or by calling us Islamophobes, every single time, if we capitulate, we're actually further going into slavery or dimitude, subjugation. Let's stand, and that's why we need a platform like yours. That's why we need people like Dave who have the expertise and the credentials to back that up by saying this is well-sourced, documented law enforcement information and sourced within their own texts, Islamic texts.
Well, speaking of text, let's go back to this one. Jihad of the Word and Positive Action. David, where did you find that book?
That particular book was actually inside the prayer room of the mosque. I noticed over the years, many of the mosques used to have Islamic libraries just filled with hundreds and sometimes thousands of books. Now they've caught on because over the years I've used a lot of the material against them. So now about the only place in many mosques that you will find books is actually in the prayer room, and you're not allowed to take any of the material out of the prayer room. The only material that you find outside of the prayer room are interfaith, basic dawah for very naive individuals. That's what they have in their lobbies that you will find. But in their prayer room is where you find a lot of the hardcore, and I say Salafis, Wahhabi, Sunni, and under the school of thought, many people, and I encourage your listeners to start looking up the 4 primary schools of thought under Sunni Islam. And with the school of thought, with the Salafis, Wahhabi, I say / Wahhabi, is the Hanbali school of thought, which is the very, very most dangerous literal interpretation of what Muhammad said and did, the Hadith, and they take everything from child marriages to jihad as a literal sense. If Muhammad said marry a 6-year-old child, then today in 2025 they say it is okay for men to marry a 6-year-old child.
David, I don't know if you have the literature in front of you. I'm going to go to the next slide. Looks like you're showing inside the book. Is that right?
Yes, that's inside the book.
Can you read a little bit from that? Do you have it in front of you to read?
I do not have it in front of me. I've got numerous, and
okay.
I don't have that in front of me.
Shahram,
it probably relates to jihad, though.
So I can save my voice a little bit here. Shahram, can you read any of that?
Yeah. Where do we start? If you go 295 and wage war. Sorry, I don't think you can come down just a little bit there on 290.
That's as far as we can go.
Okay.
Wage war on the idolators as they are waging.
There you go.
War as they're waging war on all of you.
Yes, and know that Allah is with those who something in this duty unto Him. Keep this duty. Warfare is ordained for you, though it is hateful unto the second part there. But it may happen that ye hate a thing which is good for you. It may happen that you love a thing which is bad for you. And it goes on to say, knoweth ye know not.
No, wait a minute. Is this coming out of the Hadith or the Quran, David?
This is Surah. These are the chapters of the Quran.
I seldom, if ever, use the Quran as my evidence. I use the Hadith primarily, like Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Sahih Muslim, Bukhari, Reliance of the Traveler. I use the books that they have inside the mosque. They actually have more non-Quranic material than they have copies of the Quran in a mosque.
But David, they cite chapter and verse after each paragraph.
Yes, they do. They're given the Hadith are the sayings and doings of Prophet Muhammad, essentially. And what they do is take, in different various Hadith by different Islamic scholars, they would take something from the Quran, and then they give a basic explanation, interpretation to the worshipers today in like 2025. So you would know, for instance, like with jihad, 1,400 plus years ago, the primary weapons were shields and bows and arrows, and the horses as their method of movement. Well, today in the Hadith, they talk about no longer do we use bows and arrows and horses, but we use machine guns and IED, explosive, tanks, airplanes, and other type of weapons, and we use the most modern modes of transportation with jihad. And when they're talking about jihad, Brandon, I want your viewers to understand, for the most naive under like the interfaith teachings that Muslims would do with non-Muslims, they talk about jihad being an internal struggle, like if they were to have a child who's involved in drugs, for instance, that would be jihad. That's how they talk about jihad, an internal struggle that a person may have. But in actuality, all of the materials that they have in a mosque and at the Islamic bookstores talks about jihad, physical fighting jihad qital, like Qital, fighting, and it's not the internal struggles. They're talking about how to dominate the world, form an Islamic caliphate, ummah, nation, worldwide, under strict Sharia law, and how to go about that, for instance, by killing Jews and Christians worldwide, to include in Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, wherever it may be.
What is this other book, the green book with the gold writing? What is that, David? If
I'm thinking about that one right, that's probably the Tafsir Ibn Kathir, but I don't have it in front of me.
The Riyada U.S. Salahin?
Oh, Salahin. Okay, that's another book on Hadith. Most of the Hadith books are actually manuals, anywhere from 2 to 10 volumes, and they cover every subject under a Muslim's life. And that's exactly what Sharia is. Sharia covers a Muslim 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the Hadith take every category you can possibly imagine. When can a man and woman have sex, a husband and wife? When can they not? How young can a girl be when they marry her? When do you perform jihad? And how do you perform it? What are the maneuvers, the strategy of jihad? Much of the Hadith revolves around very innocent type things, like how do you drink water? How do you lay on your side when you sleep at night? But anything you can possibly imagine is covered under the Hadith. That's why many of the Hadith are 10-plus volumes.
What's this book here? Book of Jihad, Virtues of Jihad and its Importance, Virtues of Freeing Slaves, Virtues of Kind Treatment of the Slaves. What's that?
And that's another form of hadith where they talk about slavery. And not once in all the material that I've ever looked at in 425 plus mosques do they ever condemn slavery. I'm using that as an example. They still talk about slavery as it is going on in 2025, which I tell your listeners that it is still going on in America and in many Islamic countries. But that book, again, it was just so easy for me to go into a mosque, that particular mosque, and start picking out books talking about jihad and killing innocent people. It should not be that easy to go into supposedly a place of worship, and the material you find in abundance talks about killing innocent people and marrying 6-year-old girls.
Sharon, before we go to Annie, last week I said to Dave Robbins, I said, remember Texas? This is Texas we're talking about. Where are all those tough talking Texans now? The don't tread on me flags, don't mess with Texas. Where are all those people now? Sharon?
Well, we'll find out tomorrow, right? We'll find out tomorrow.
Tell our audience what's taking place tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be at the Texas State Capitol at 2 o'clock Central Time there in Austin on the south steps of the Capitol. The organizer there, who you had on radio earlier from Accountability Matters, Texas.com, felt compelled to have this rally because they were going to have a rally when CAIR was hosting their Muslim Day, and through threats and intimidation, they were forced to cancel it. And now they're countering with a Judeo-Christian Day at the Capitol for prayer worship. We'll find out tomorrow, Brandon, where are all the tough Texans? Where are all the pastors? Where are all the people that say this will never happen in Texas because this is Texas? We'll find out how many people show up tomorrow and how much they care about Texas and about the United States of America. But we're going because we're going to keep in the fight. We're going to keep warning and declaring who the true God is, that there's but one true God, and that this demonic ideology that is Islam is from the pit of hell. And as Dave mentioned a few times, we're going to rebuke interfaith and multi-faith. We're going to rebuke all this ecumenicalism and all these Christians that are falling for how much so-called we have in common. The likes of James White, who, again, as I said, bear a great responsibility on their shoulders when they absolutely mocked us and trashed us for warning about Yasser Qadhi. Where are they? Where is James White? Where is Phil Johnson? Where is John MacArthur? So tomorrow, if you're in the area, please come. We are going to be live streaming it, and we will get some video of the event that we'll then hopefully share with Brandon later after the event. But please pray for us. Pray for Texas. But that's a great question, Brandon. Everything in Texas is supposed to be big, right? Big hair, big, we got our guns and everything. This is Texas. This is Texas. And look what the Muslims are doing in Texas. They don't even have to fire a shot. They're just buying out Texas, and Texas is just whimpering its way into submission to Islam, thanks to all the money and all the promises that are being thrown around. And don't for a minute, folks, believe Greg Abbott or anybody in the Texas government that is telling you, we're not going to have Sharia in Texas. This has been going on for decades and years. And it has now just come finally to the tipping point. And the point that I wanted to make to Dave real quick is, again, the reason Yasser Qadhi is now being honest is because they're closer to the upper house. And remember that they are not permitted to engage in any form of deception once they go to Dawah, because when they go to the upper house, they must declare, they must call for repentance. That's what the a Muslim chaplain did at the White House when I was there a couple of weeks ago at the National Day of Prayer. He said, Allah has blessed the caller and the called. The called and the caller, in that order. The called are the Muslims, the caller is their dawah. Allah is blessing our dawah now, meaning they're at the point now where they're calling America, repent, turn to Islam. That's the point where they're at, folks. That means they're very close to declaring upper house, as they've done in Patterson, New Jersey, and Hamtramck, and Dearborn Heights, and Minneapolis, and St. Cloud, and all these other areas. That's what it means. And it's the body of Christ that's supposed to be spirit-filled as the standard of God that should be raising right now. So you know what, Brandon? If there's only 5 of us standing there tomorrow, there'll be 5 of us standing there tomorrow against this standard, or against this evil that's coming into our nation, and we will stand there as a standard. And I'm going to declare tomorrow that Allah is not God to the Texas State Capitol, and that it's only the one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name is Jesus Christ.
Amen to that. Well, it's right here on our website, worldviewtube.com or Worldview Times. You can use the buttons up here. Go to the news. So you got TV, you got Vault, you got About. Go to the news page right here, and you'll see it right there on the news page. This affidavit by Dave Gobbets, notarized affidavit by Dave Gobbets, and you can read it. David, let me ask you this in regards to President Trump. Annie and I just had a conversation, and I'm sure you, like me and Sharam, we want President Trump to be successful. Because if he is, it's good for America, right?
Yes.
But is he aware of Islam to the degree he should be? Or, I mean, how did this dude get on this advisory committee? The Ismail Royer, whatever his name is.
Royer.
Yeah.
Well, I've asked that question. I used to make excuses all the time for politicians. Well, they just really don't know, or they haven't studied enough. These people are well informed about Islam. They do know, and I support President Trump, as I've mentioned to you before, 150%. I want the best for America. I want the best for him. And I think he's doing an outstanding job in many, many areas. The one area that I see that is lacking is the coming down on the Islamic ideology and Islamic terrorism that is boiling inside America. I'm talking about inside America. When I went to a lecture on Saturday, I think it was May the 3rd at the Epicenter Mosque, I went to the Friday prayer, and then on Saturday they were holding a class, and a topic came up, why Plano? Why the Epicenter in Plano? And it goes back to exactly what everyone here is talking about. They just didn't pick Plano because it's cheap land, because it's not. It's some of the most expensive land in America, Plano, Texas. And they didn't do it because they just wanted to be close to the Criminal Justice Academy there. No, they did it because Texas is a representative of conservatives. It is one of the supposedly the most strongest conservative states in America. And they wanted to put the Epicenter in an area where they'd have a lot of resistance, where they would be going up against conservatives, and they can show that they can win even in Texas.
So if they win there, they win elsewhere.
You can win anywhere. You can win in Minnesota easily, Maine, Vermont, etc., California. But if you lose in Texas, then you have a chance of losing anywhere. So they wanted to go for the number one conservative state that they opined is the number one conservative state, so they can show the worshipers that we can defeat Christianity, we can defeat Judaism, we can defeat conservatives.
I want to play that clip, Logan, of Kash Patel. Can you cue it to that one spot, Logan? Because I want to get David's response to this. Kash Patel has come out and said that removing the FBI out of the J. Edgar Hoover building is not safe. Is this because, David, Kash Patel has been read in and knows about existential threats? Is it because he's about to drop something with his people and the threat is the deep state and he's concerned about a false flag going down there? Why would he make this statement, do you think?
I think there's various reasons, but for any top-level government organization to be based in Washington, D.C. is not safe. It's one of the most liberal places in America, and there are a lot of enemies of conservatives in the Washington, D.C. area. there's a lot of secrets in the Hoover building, the FBI building, and I am sure 100% that he's starting to uncover those. And that building in itself is not safe. I don't think you're supposed to have skiffs for top secret type information being discussed. I don't think anything that is discussed in the Hoover building has any type of secrecy to it.
In other words, it's probably been wired like you can't believe.
Exactly, by men, not only numerous foreign countries, but by people like James Comey himself, the former FBI director, who put out, in my opinion, a threat against President Trump.
So you think the FBI building is loaded with listening devices?
I would almost say 100% it is. And that's one of the reasons that building is not safe. Nothing is secret. You cannot hold any type of confidential secret meeting in that building because the whole world is going to know about it.
Listen to this and we'll get a response from Sharam. Watch this.
I know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget.
We want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that, and that's not this place.
And that's not this place. Sharam?
Well, I think Dave said it well already. There's probably multiple reasons for that. But, whether it's an existential threat, whether it's the spying or all of the above, or just getting out of D.C., I mean, I'm sure that can't hurt. But going back to our topic today, do I have confidence that even in this administration, that they understand the enemy, that they understand what's going on? I don't. Because number one, there has been never an ability to even go to the step of designating CARE or even any other Muslim Brotherhood organization as a terrorist front organization. I mean, that would be at least a token, symbol. But they're so worried about whatever the backlash and offending the Muslims. I mean, let's not forget the president, when he had the iftar dinner at the White House this year, in the invitation that was written for the Muslims to come to the White House, he said, I owe you a lot. You helped me get here. I owe you a lot. I'm with you. Now, those are the words of Obama. That's what Obama used to say, right? So whoever's advising him, and I'm not even going to get started on the false teacher that is a supposed spiritual advisor. So
Paula White.
Yeah, I've done enough on her, and I personally observed her at the White House. Again, when that Muslim was praying, the chaplain, she had her head bowed, she's nodding her head in agreement with his prayer, while I'm sitting there under my breath, rebuking in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, his prayer, and praying that it would fall on deaf ears. So, and the president got up right after this man was done praying and said, that was fantastic. So the advisement is horrible. But then when you go to Saudi Arabia, and the reason I was laughing is because Dave's talking about the bugs in the Hoover building. I'm thinking about the bugs on the $400 million 747 that the Qataris are giving Trump. How are they going to deal with that? So, this is, if you go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Qatar, you go to the United Arab Emirates, you tour the Abrahamic family house, you're being told that we all worship the same God. You're buying the interfaith deception line, sink, and what is that phraseology? I'm always bad with my
hook, line, and sinker.
Thank you, Brandon. Hook, line, and sinker. And then you're importing their values and their false God into America. Why then are we shocked that we are not going to be able to fight this enemy on our soil? Because they're buying us out with the money. They're buying us out with their money, Brandon. I don't know how else to say it. They bought us out. Texas has been bought out. What I'm being told by many of the legislators and Greg Abbott is that this all comes down to political kickbacks. This all comes back to political campaigns, political kickbacks, what's going on with the Colony Ridge, all of this comes back to the root of evil, which is the love of money. And because of that, we're selling America down the drain. We potentially are selling Israel down the drain. We certainly are selling the Iranian people down the drain, who are simply saying, Mr. President, would you support us? Would you stand with us? Just morally say something so that we can rise up against the tyranny we've been under. So,
Sharon, if I could say, I would say as of today, Iranian people aren't even asking for that. They're just asking Trump to stop enabling the mullahs. Like, they don't even need the support. It's like, hey, President Trump, can you just get out of our way and let us take our country back? Like, that's where we're at in Iran.
Well, and Andy and I think that President Trump ought to bring the prince into the Oval Office and sit in the yellow chairs in front of the fireplace and talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that, David?
Oh, I think so too, and I agree with everything that's being said. I think President Trump is a very smart person, though, and it goes back again to the money. Many times we're taught that the Saudis are our friends. The Saudis are not our friends. They are the big movement behind Yasser Qadi, who trained and studied in Saudi Arabia. The 9/11 attackers, the terrorists, they trained and studied in Arabia. The Saudis are not our friends, and I'll give a good example of that. When I went to Iraq in 2003, of course, we had Saudi Arabia, and we had to go through customs when we landed in Saudi Arabia. Now, I was in my 40s when I went through Iraq, but the majority, as we all know, were kids to me, 18, 19-year-old active duty military. When we went through the customs line, the first thing the Saudis did was reach into their bags and take out the Bibles that were given to them by the Red Cross, and they were intentionally throw those Bibles into the trash cans. And what was more amazing to me is the colonels and majors and lieutenant colonels that were in line also did nothing. They said nothing. And that's how wrapped we've got the Saudis are against us, and we have no one who will even stand up against them.
And if I could just add to what Sharon was saying about, just to make sure nobody thinks we're picking on Trump only, Florida just declared month of May the Islamic or Muslims Culture and Heritage Month. Great. Philadelphia just handed over $5 million to Al-Aqsa Islamic Center in Pennsylvania. So this isn't us just saying Trump is doing it. This is us saying U.S. has been conquered. Wake up, people.
And I think the reason that we're seeing this, based on my travels throughout the Middle East and all the mosques in America, is that the media and many politicians still to this day want to portray Islam as two different Islamic ideologies. One is peaceful and one has a bunch of terrorists. As we all know, there is one Islam, one Allah, one Prophet Muhammad, and the Islamic ideology is dangerous, and until the media starts portraying that there are not two different Islams, but there's one Islam, you have many people associated with Islam who do not abide by Sharia law and do not abide by the violent atrocities such as jihad and child marriages. But Islam says those same people are apostates of Islam and they're not even Muslim. So we have, the viewers should know, there is one Islam. There's not two Islams. There's no Islam that is caring, loving, assimilating. There is one Islam, and it's one that wants to take over the world, a caliphate under Sharia law.
And but Brandon, real quick, just James White told us that how dare you say Islam is monolithic? Remember that? Yep. Remember that? He told us that, how dare you say that? Because he's the expert, right? Who are we? We don't know anything. And Dave Gavas just said it. There is one Islam. And so I just wanted to bring that up, that is exactly the problem. But Dave, the problem also resides in the churches, because instead of pastors bringing in people like Annie and myself or others who've come out of Islam, who know what that is, to say, hey, please educate us in Islam. Help us to know how to reach Muslims for Christ. help us to know how to share the gospel, they bring in people like Yasser Qadi.
Yeah.
Tell us about Islam. You're my mentor, Yasser. And then this is why we're in the mess we're in. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt Annie. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I was just going to, I'm glad you said what you said. Now, let me quickly go back to the book that Mr. Gobbets took a picture of and Brandon showed, Jihad of the Words, Positive Actions. If you look up the author of that book, Badi'uzzaman Sayyid Ansuri, a Kurdish Sunni man who wrote that book and another book in attempts of reforming Islam. That is the reformed version of Islam. And when you read from it, it was still saying commit jihad. So,
yeah. Well,
yes, there are no different types of Islam.
I actually went, Muslims, they go to, because remember, 80% of the world's Muslims do not speak Arabic. They don't read Arabic. They don't speak Arabic. So they have to use themselves authenticated. So even on Quran.com, which is authenticated, where Muslims use themselves, just that one verse in Surah chapter 9, verse 111, that it says that this is out of Sahih International, which is one of the most top accepted interpretations of the Quran. Indeed, Allah has purchased from the believers their lives and their properties. In exchange for that, they will have paradise. So they will go to heaven in exchange for their lives. They fight in the cause of Allah. There's jihad, so that they kill and are killed. It is a true promise binding upon him, both in the Torah, in the Gospels, and in the Quran. So Allah expects the Muslim to fight in the sake of Allah, which is jihad, and kill and be killed. And that, according to Annie, is the reformed version of Islam that they're being given, right? They get directly quoted from the Quran.
Yeah, as we all know, there's no reforming Islam. When I go to the Friday Juma prayers, and I know each of you know this, that they will raise the right finger up in the air, meaning one Islam, one Allah. And really, it doesn't matter what I think or what my opinion sometimes is on something. I ask different imams about, are there different sects, SECTS, of Islam, like Sunni, Shia, etc., the Sufi, and over they say there's one Islam, and that's pure Islam, pure Muslim. There's really no such thing as Sunni, Shia, Sufi. That there's one Islam, and a Muslim either abides by Sharia law 100%, or they are an apostate of Islam and are subject to death.
Listen to this, Imam. Listen to this, guys.
One day you're going to be the president of the United States of America. No one, go Michael Ali, who can stop you from becoming a president. Dream big, have a vision. Because if Barack Hussein Obama can be a president, Sohaib Jawad cannot be a president? Tell he's going to be a president. He's talking about that the Muslims will take over Mecca. They used to laugh at him. What happened? What is Mecca now? What is Mecca? It's coming. Change is coming to America. And what is Allah telling us? Kuntum khayra ummatin. You are the best of nations. You're better than everybody else. That's what Allah is saying. Let's work towards that. Let's work towards a Muslim mayor. Next election that comes in, nominate people for the school board of education. Next election that comes here, nominate people for the local township. Begin the demographics change. People converted. There's a big, huge conversion going on in this country. Where are the converts? They just convert and they're gone in the wilderness. The other thing, children. Muslims have the highest population. Average, they did a, Pew Foundation did a research study, Pew Foundation, and they said that Muslim household average is 3.4 child per family. The white American has 1 child per family. We're already beating the march. Because these are voters. These are not just babies being born in hospitals. These are voters. That's the way a politician looks at it. We have to change the framework and start looking at things from a different lens, different angle. For future. You're not going to change society today in your lifetime, but you think about your grandchildren.
Wow. And again, it's reportedly an imam in America. So they're going for the long game to take over America.
One day you're going to be the president of the United States.
So let me ask you in closing, guys. Obviously, we need to give the gospel. Annie's former Muslim. Sharam's a former Muslim. They're Christians. Shram's a pastor. Hadia, she was with us, going to be with us this fall. She was a Muslim. She's now a Christian. Goes to Jack Hibbs' church. So obviously we need to preach the gospel to them. But we have to do it in the right way. And interfaith dialogue is not preaching the gospel. I don't care what James White, his supporters tell you. I don't care what Phil Johnson of John MacArthur's Grace to You tweeted. Okay? I don't care what any of them say. It's what the Bible says. At what point, Shram, do we never stop speaking truth, but at what point do we have to say, we've reached the tipping point, God is going to use Islam to judge America, and we stop warning? Because there is a time when the watchman on the wall stops warning because God's spoken, right?
True. There is a time. I guess all I can say is, I told you, I was there last year. I was almost there. You were almost there, right? And amazing that I guess this speaks of God's grace. I guess all I can say is the Lord is more patient than I am, praise God. And he is long suffering. And I agree with you 100%. You know, I did a DVD, one of our DVDs years ago was Islam and God's judgment in the last days. That I fully believe, you and I have talked about this many times, that Islam at the minimum is going to be used and is being used by the globalists, by the beast system as their judgment. They're going to be the armies, they're going to be the sword, the people that are beheaded during the tribulation. Who beheads? Who's beheaded more than Islam? So, but I don't know. I felt like last year I was done. I felt like last year I was praying, Lord, am I released from warning? But obviously not, because here we are and we're still fighting and but I think you're right. There will come a time where we stop warning. Now, obviously, the Spirit of God can draw people to Christ at any point. And so, you know, opportunities come. We're going to still, in our ministry, we continue to still educate and train Christians how to biblically share their faith, not through the compromise of ecumenicalism, interfaith, multi-faith, or any type of commonality, because there is nothing common between the Spirit of God and the Spirit of Antichrist. And that's what a foolish man like James White doesn't understand. He never, by the way, answered my question. Not one time did he answer my question when I said, do you acknowledge that Islam is an Antichrist spirit? He never could answer that question, because that would expose him. But I think the time of warning, as far as to the nation, will come. But I think the time of giving the gospel to the soul,
that never
ends until the Lord takes the church, right? So, and then even then, right? We know during the tribulation, the Lord Himself is using the 144,000 Jewish witnesses and others during the tribulation to still save souls, because we know that there is an elect during the tribulation, including the Jews, that are going to be saved, that will endure till the end of the tribulation. But that will never end. But to your point, I think we're getting closer and closer to the warning to the nations. And this may be the final. Where I thought I was done last year, maybe this is the final crescendo. This is the final warning to the nation. Because they are now, I mean, how many clips have we played today?
Yeah.
Where these Islamic leaders, in their words, and I tell people all the time, don't believe me one bit. Go read the sources and listen to their own words in their own mosque as they're declaring what they're going to do. The long game, they're telling you. The end goal, they're telling you. We're going to buy up your churches. We're going to make America Muslim. We're going to take over and implement Sharia. It is a matter of when. And just for the Muslims' sakes, hey, guess what? I have 6 children. So I'm trying to do my part as the Lord commanded us to be fruitful and multiply. So, take that.
There you go.
Whoever that guy was. with only Americans have one.
TILministry.com, TILministry.com. Yes. Annie is liveuptofreedom.com and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Closing comment, Annie?
I'm just going to say what I have learned very recently doing a Substack on From MAGA to Mecca. anybody who's willing to entertain anything of interfaith dialogue or anything outside of being a follower of Christ, it was something I learned recently. So I refer you to John. I have it here, 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Me is Jesus Christ. We cannot coexist. We cannot. Forget about who they are. We as Christians cannot coexist with people who consider Jesus nothing but the prophet of Islam. So stop it. Stop it. Don't worry about provoking them, because very soon, before we know it, we need to go to the Father and answer the question of why did you doubt my plan and your role in it? Because you wanted to leave life a few days later, a month longer. You wanted to win the trophy that under your presidency there were no terrorist attack in America.
Wow. Liveuptofreedom.com. Closing comment, David?
I would just like to say over the last 10 years, I've probably retired 5 times and said I would never continue doing this. But it's because of people like you, Brandon, and everyone that's talking today that keeps me going. But what really keeps me going are the children, and that's the Christian children, Jewish children, atheist children, and the Muslim children. All children to me are innocent. And I would say that Christian missionary work is wide open within Islam. We talk about the millions of people who are pure Muslim and nothing, absolutely nothing, is going to change their mind. But there are a lot of people that are associated with Islam that were just a little bit of nudging through Christian missionaries who could change their life around and accept Christianity. So I say we should never give up, because there are people out there who are willing to listen, but we need to stand up to the pure Muslims.
Indeed. Wow. TLministry.com, liveuptofreedom.com. And David, you don't have a website, but you have an email. What is it?
It's davegobbets@gmail.com, and I'll answer anything about the affidavit or any of my visits to the mosque that I went to.
And thank you, David, for doing all this. The affidavit, folks, is at worldviewtimes.com, worldviewtimes.com. Thank you to all of you guys. Now, folks.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Thank
Annie.
you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Sharam. Now, if you guys appreciate what we're doing, folks, I do need your support. We just did an hour and 25 minutes without a commercial break. You know how many times most networks would have jumped in there to sell something? We're interested in the content, getting out the truth. I wish we had so much income that we wouldn't have to take any breaks, but we don't. We got to bring in about 40 grand a month just to cover our costs. Doesn't count my salary, and I have to make a living. That's just my hard cost. The Islamists have billions. A lot of these groups get government money. They have progressive, globalist, Marxist foundations that fund them. I'm brought to you by you. Most people giving 20, 25, 30 bucks, 50 bucks a month, whatever it is. I wish I didn't even have to talk about it. I wish that we had so many donors that I don't have to talk about it. I see these groups that bring in millions of dollars a year. I'm thinking, and I tell Logan all the time and my wife, these groups aren't doing anything. Yeah, people give them money. You go look at their reports. They're bringing in millions. Millions. They're not doing anything. It's platitudes, talking points, a little rah, rah, rah. We're giving the truth. Maybe our program is just too full of truth. Maybe our program is just too straightforward. Maybe our program is just too sophisticated. But if that's the case, so be it, because I'm not changing. We're not here to entertain. We'll shut down before I do that. But we need your support. And we need you to go out there and get more people to support us. You need to encourage people to watch and encourage them to give. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. All right, guys, before we go, don't forget our fall conference is coming up October 3rd and 4th. Look at this lineup. We've got to actually update it. Logan, you probably have the more updated graphic. Alex Newman, Gordon Chang, Sidney Powell, Dr. Lana, Chris Martinson, Mark Mitchell with Rasmussen, Dr. Andy Woods, and Hadia. That's the more updated ones, missing 2 people. Also, you can go to worldviewstore.com, sign up for the banquet. We have no profit, okay? $60 is what it costs us per person. There's zero profit mixed into that price. This is a restaurant that Melissa and I, Logan, we love this restaurant. Amazing, amazing steak, grilled chicken, salads, baked potato. It's amazing. One of our favorite restaurants in the Mid-South. And we're holding our banquet there. They have a banquet hall. We're holding our banquet there on that Thursday night, October 2nd. And Hadia will be there as a keynote speaker. And I'll be doing a few numbers with my grand piano again, like we do every year, a few numbers, and then a keynote speech by Hadia on that Thursday night. So again, get registered. There it is, the full lineup. We only have 350 seats. That's it. We got a beautiful theater here in Collierville, Tennessee. Collierville and Germantown have been ranked the 2 top safest cities or towns in the whole state of Tennessee. The airport's about 30 minutes or so away. It's an easy airport to get in and out of. The hotels are all listed on the website right here in Collierville. Safe community. Come join us, okay? October 3rd and 4th, Friday night, Saturday, the 22nd annual National World View Weekend. Hey, while you're there, why not get a pack of business cards? We have now shipped out over 15,000 of these that are double-sided business cards. Pass them out to your family and friends or people you meet who you think might benefit from and appreciate and learn from what we do here 24/7, okay? So please consider doing that. Also, before we go, last night was, what was it, Lesson 38? Lesson 38, as I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. Let me see if it's there. It's there? Lesson 38 last night. We got through the entire chapter. Revelation chapter 15. Got through the entire chapter last night. I think that's the shortest chapter in the book of Revelation, so I think that's why we were able to do that. Website's loading slow, Logan. Is there a problem? Yeah, we might want to ask our IT guy what's going on there. Loading slow as Christmas right now. But anyway, worldviewtube.com, and I just rebooted the computer, so it should be no problem. Oh, better get a hold of the IT guy. There you go, folks. Another expense. Call the IT guy after hours so you guys can keep watching free TV. Worldviewtube.com is where you're going to find our Sunday night. Oh, finally loaded. Could have run out and got a hamburger by the time it did. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Revelation lesson 38. The bold judgments and his majesty, his character, and his deeds. Lesson 38. Teaching last night through the entire chapter of Revelation chapter 15. So now obviously we're off for Memorial Day weekend, okay? By the way, by Friday night, we should be bringing you our first video from where we filmed all of these things you have not seen from Washington, D.C., where I went to the location where Ronald Reagan walks out of the Washington Hilton and the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. I went there with Logan, with Melissa. We filmed. Logan and I have been spending, since we got back, we started the day after we got back. So we'll have for you, we since the day we got back, we've been working on the documentary, the first one to release, on the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. It will include interviews with his Attorney General, Ed Meese, that I did, his son, Michael Reagan, the Secret Service agent, Timothy McCarthy. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be very interesting. What do you think about it, Logan? He thinks it's going to turn out good, he says. I think it's going to be fire, Logan, as you young kids say. It's going to be fire. So that'll be Friday night, okay? So again, All of this brought to you by you. But get your free business cards at worldviewstore.com. Promote the network. Watch my lesson 38. We'll be off for Memorial Day weekend. Lord willing, back the next week for lesson 39 as I start in on Revelation chapter 16, verse 1, and the first pouring of the bowl number 1 of the 7 bowl judgments. Okay? There you go. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. There's a lot of stuff there, folks. A lot of stuff there for you at worldviewtube.com, free of charge. And don't forget about our vault. worldviewtube.com/vault. 35 years. Radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, transcripts. Amazing stuff there. Just for like $7.99 a month. Great way for you to support us. And you get access to 35 years of Christian worldview, documentation, and history. Oh, you made it just in time. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome to the broadcast on this May 19th, 2025. May 19th, 2025. Well, Texas, of course, has been in the news a lot, and rightfully so, because Texas is being targeted for a takedown by the Islamists. Joining me today is Shahram Hadian with a special guest. She's Morgan, her name, Collier, has organized a rally in Texas, a Judeo-Christian rally to defend the Judeo-Christian worldview, the foundation of our republic. That's according to the leading scholar of the Founding Fathers, one of them, William Blackstone. So we need to tell you about that because things are definitely heating up. Tonight, we'll have part 2 of our exclusive